The blizzard raged on, and Emma clutched her baby tightly, her thoughts a whirl of fear and determination. She and Sarah had been left by their fellow settlers, abandoned in the relentless cold. No warmth, no shelter, just the biting wind and the vast, uncaring snow. Exhausted, they huddled in the grove, nearly resigned to their fate. Then, through the swirling white, two Lakota warriors emerged, strong, calm, and observing them from a distance. Emma thought all hope was lost, but destiny had a different plan. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from, and subscribe if you believe that destiny always finds a way. Emma and Sarah stood at the edge of the camp. They each held a baby close to their chest. The wind was cold, and the snow fell softly around them. Their coats were thin, and they shivered. Supplies were running low. The camp was empty now. The other settlers had moved on, leaving Emma and Sarah behind. They felt alone and scared. Emma thought of her husband. He had died in the storm. She remembered his smile and his warm voice. Her heart ached, but she had to be strong for her baby. She looked at Sarah. Sarah's eyes were full of tears, but she nodded, showing she understood. They were both widows now, left to fend for themselves. But they had each other. The camp had been their home for weeks. They had traveled with the group, hoping for a new start. But the storm had been too much. Many had died, including their husbands. Now, with the blizzard coming, they had to find a way to survive. Emma and Sarah gathered what little supplies were left. A few scraps of food, a bit of water, and some blankets. It was not much, but it was all they had. The snow began to fall harder. The wind howled, making it hard to see. Emma and Sarah knew they needed shelter. They moved towards a small grove of trees nearby. The trees offered some protection from the wind. The ground was covered in snow, but it was better than nothing. They spread out a blanket and sat down. The babies cried, sensing the cold. Emma and Sarah huddled close, trying to keep them warm. As night fell, the temperature dropped even more. Emma held her baby tight, whispering words of comfort. She thought about the future. It was hard to imagine anything beyond the storm, but she had to believe they would find a way. Sarah was quiet, lost in her own thoughts. Emma knew she was thinking about her husband too. They both missed them terribly. The sound of the wind was loud, almost like a roar. It was hard to sleep, but they needed to rest. Emma closed her eyes, trying to block out the noise. She thought of her husband again, remembering their dreams. They had wanted a new life, a place to raise their child. Now she was alone, but she had to keep going. For her child and for herself. Morning came slowly. The storm had not stopped. Emma and Sarah were tired, but they forced themselves to get up. They had to keep moving. They needed to find more food, more shelter. The grove of trees was not enough. The snow was deep, making it hard to walk. Emma's legs were sore, but she pushed on. The world around them was white and cold. Everything seemed frozen in place. Emma wondered if they would ever see green grass again. Sarah walked beside her, holding her baby close. They did not speak much. There was nothing to say. Their situation was dire, but they had to keep hope alive. The bond between Emma and Sarah was strong. They had both lost so much, but they had found comfort in each other. They shared stories of their pasts, of happier times. It helped, if only a little. Their friendship was a light in the darkness. As they walked, Emma wondered about the other settlers. Had they found safety? Were they warm and fed? She hoped so, but she knew it was unlikely. The storm had been fierce and many had not survived. She pushed the thought away, focusing on the present. She had to keep moving forward. The day passed slowly. The storm showed no signs of stopping. Emma and Sarah found a small cave. It was dark and damp, but it was shelter. They crawled inside, grateful for the break from the wind. The babies were quiet, exhausted from the journey. Emma and Sarah rested, taking turns keeping watch. Despite the cold, they managed to sleep. Dreams were filled with memories of their husbands, of the lives they once had. But morning always came, and with it, the reality of their situation. Still, they did not give up. They could not afford to. The blizzard raged on. Emma and Sarah rationed their food carefully. They ate only what was necessary, saving the rest for later. Hunger gnawed at their stomachs, but they ignored it. Survival was all that mattered. Days blended together, each one as cold and harsh as the last. But Emma and Sarah's spirits did not break. They were determined to protect their children, to see them grow. Their husbands' dreams lived on in their hearts, giving them strength. In moments of quiet, Emma thought of the future. She imagined a place where the snow did not fall, where the sun was warm. A place where her child could play and laugh. It was a dream, but it gave her hope. And hope was something she desperately needed. Sarah shared her dreams too. She spoke of a garden of flowers and trees. A place full of life and color. Together, they painted a picture of a better world. It was a world worth fighting for. The storm continued, but Emma and Sarah did not lose faith. They had come this far, and they would not stop. Their friendship was a beacon in the storm, guiding them through the darkest nights. As they sat in the cave, Emma looked at Sarah. Despite the cold and the hunger, there was a light in her eyes. A spark of determination. Emma felt it too. They would survive. They had to. For their children, for each other, and for the dreams of a brighter tomorrow. The blizzard did not let up. Emma and Sarah stayed close in the cave, holding their babies tight. The cold was sharp, biting at their skin. Each breath they took felt like ice. The world outside was a blur of white, snow swirling in the fierce wind. Inside the cave they had a small fire. It gave off little warmth, but it was better than nothing. Emma and Sarah took turns feeding the fire with small sticks and scraps of wood. They had to keep it going. Without it, the cold would be unbearable. Emma watched the flames dance. Her thoughts drifted to her husband again. He had always been the strong one, the one who knew what to do. She wished he were here now, but she pushed the thought away. She had to be strong for their child. She glanced at Sarah. There was a look of determination on her face. They were in this together. The supplies were running low. Emma and Sarah counted what they had left. A few pieces of dried meat, a small bag of flour, and a little bit of water. It was not enough, but they would make it last. They had no choice. The storm raged on. Emma and Sarah talked quietly, trying to keep their spirits up. They shared memories of happier times, of laughter and warmth. It helped to forget the cold, if only for a moment. Their friendship was a lifeline, pulling them through the darkness. Emma thought about their journey so far. The long days of walking, the nights spent under the stars. They had left everything behind, hoping for a new start. But the storm had changed everything. Many had not survived. But Emma and Sarah were still here. They had each other, and that was something. As the wind howled outside, the babies whimpered. Emma held her child close, whispering soft words of comfort. She wished she could do more. But there was no escaping the cold. No way to make it better. All she could do was hold on and hope. Sarah was quiet, lost in her thoughts. Emma knew she was thinking about her husband too. They had all come so far, only to be torn apart by the storm. It was hard to accept, but there was no going back. They had to keep moving forward. The day passed slowly. The storm showed no signs of stopping. Emma and Sarah took turns watching the entrance of the cave. They looked for any sign of a break in the weather. But the snow continued to fall, thick and relentless. Emma's stomach growled, a reminder of their dwindling supplies. She tried to ignore it, focusing instead on the fire. They had to make the food last. She and Sarah ate sparingly, saving the best for the babies. The little ones needed all the strength they could get. In the quiet moments, Emma and Sarah spoke of their dreams. They talked about the future, imagining a world without snow and ice. It was a comforting thought, something to hold on to in the midst of the storm. They had to believe there was a better world waiting for them. The bond between Emma and Sarah grew stronger. They relied on each other for strength, for hope. Their shared experiences had created a deep connection. Together, they faced the harsh reality of their situation, finding solace in their friendship. The storm continued to batter the cave. Snow piled up at the entrance, blocking out the light. Emma and Sarah worked together, clearing it away. They had to keep the entrance open, had to be ready to move when the storm finally passed. Through it all, Emma kept a close eye on her baby. She watched for any signs of illness, any hint of danger. The little one was her world now, and she would do anything to protect her. Sarah felt the same about her child. They were both mothers, united in their fierce love. As night fell, the temperature dropped even more. The fire flickered, casting shadows on the cave walls. Emma and Sarah huddled close, sharing their warmth. Their bodies ached from the cold, but they did not give up. They could not afford to. Emma's thoughts drifted to the other settlers. She wondered if any of them had survived. It was a painful thought, one she tried to push away. She had to focus on the present, on keeping her child safe. The past was gone, and the future was uncertain. Despite the cold and the hunger, Emma and Sarah held on to hope. They had come this far, and they would not stop. Their children were their light, their reason for enduring. They had to keep going for their sake. In the darkness of the cave, Emma and Sarah shared their dreams once more. They talked of gardens and sunshine, of a place where their children could play and grow. It was a dream, but it gave them strength. It was a reminder of what they were fighting for. The night was long, but morning eventually came. The storm had not stopped, but Emma and Sarah were ready. They gathered their things, preparing to move if needed. They would not let the storm defeat them. They were survivors and they would find a way. As they waited for a break in the weather, Emma looked at Sarah. Despite everything, there was a spark of hope in her eyes. Emma felt it too. Together, they would face whatever came next. Their friendship was a beacon in the storm, guiding them through the darkest days. Emma and Sarah knew the journey was far from over. But they had each other, and that was enough. They would keep moving forward, one step at a time. For their children, for their dreams, and for the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The storm had been fierce for days, but finally there was a small break in the weather. The wind still blew, but the snow fell more gently. Emma and Sarah took this chance to gather more sticks for the fire. They were tired and hungry, but they had to keep going for the sake of their babies. Emma stepped outside the cave, feeling the cold bite at her cheeks. The world was still a sea of white, but she could see a little further now. Sarah followed her, holding her child close. They both knew they had to find more food soon. Their supplies were nearly gone. As they moved through the snow, Emma spotted something in the distance. Two figures were coming their way, moving slowly through the drifts. Her heart raced. Fear mixed with hope. Were these figures friendly? Or did they bring danger? Sarah saw them too. They both stood still, watching as the figures drew closer. The tension in the air was thick. Emma tightened her grip on her baby. She had to be ready for anything. The figures came into view. They were two men, dressed in heavy furs. Their hair was dark and their faces were calm. Emma guessed they were Lakota warriors. She had heard stories about them from other settlers. Some stories were good, others were not. She hoped these men would be kind. The warriors stopped a short distance away. They seemed to understand the caution in Emma and Sarah's eyes. The taller of the two raised a hand, a gesture of peace. Emma exchanged a look with Sarah. They both knew they had to be careful, but they also needed help. The decision weighed heavily on them. Emma took a deep breath. She nodded slowly at the warriors, letting them know they could come closer. Her heart pounded in her chest. She hoped she was making the right choice. The warriors approached, their steps careful and measured. One of them carried a bundle over his shoulder. As they neared, Emma could see that it was food. Her heart lifted slightly. Maybe they had come to help. The man with the bundle pointed to the cave, then to the sky. Emma understood. He was warning them about the weather. The storm was not over yet. She nodded, showing she understood. They needed shelter and food, and these men might be their chance. The warriors moved with a quiet confidence. They did not speak, but their actions were clear. They meant no harm. Emma and Sarah felt a flicker of trust. The men set down their bundle, opening it to reveal dried meat and other food. It was more than Emma and Sarah had seen in days. Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. She and Sarah exchanged a look of gratitude. The warriors were offering them help and they could not refuse. The babies needed this. The taller warrior gestured for them to follow. Emma hesitated, looking at Sarah. They both knew this was a risk, but they had few options. Together, they decided to trust the warriors. They gathered their few belongings and followed. The warriors led them to a different part of the grove where the trees were thicker. There was more shelter here, a place to rest and eat. Emma and Sarah were grateful. The wind was less harsh and the snow did not reach them as easily. They settled in, sharing the food with their babies. Emma felt warmth spread through her body as she ate. It was a small comfort, but it meant everything. She watched the warriors, who had built a small fire. Their skills were clear, and Emma felt a growing respect for them. As the fire crackled, Emma and Sarah tried to communicate with the warriors. It was difficult as they did not speak the same language. But they found ways to understand each other. Gestures and expressions bridged the gap between them. Emma learned that the taller warrior was named Wohiv and his companion was Chaska. They had been tracking the storm, looking for those in need. Emma and Sarah were grateful for their kindness. It was a reminder that not all strangers were enemies. The bond between the settlers and the warriors slowly grew. Emma and Sarah felt a sense of safety they had not known since the storm began. Wohiv and Chaska showed them how to set traps for small animals, how to find edible plants. The skills were new, but Emma and Sarah were eager to learn. The storm returned with renewed force, but the small group was ready. They huddled close, sharing warmth and stories. Emma told them about her home, about the life she had before the storm. Sarah shared her dreams of a garden full of flowers. Wohiv and Chaska listened, their expressions thoughtful. Emma and Sarah also learned about the Lakota way of life. Wohiv explained through gestures and simple drawings in the snow. Family and community were at the heart of everything. Emma found comfort in this. It reminded her of her own values, of the dreams she once shared with her husband. As the days passed, trust between the two groups deepened. Emma and Sarah felt a growing sense of belonging. The warriors' calm presence eased their fears. The storm was still a threat, but they faced it together. Emma watched her baby sleep, feeling a sense of peace. The storm would end, she knew. And when it did, they would be ready. They had found allies in Wohiv and Chaska, and that meant they were no longer alone. The blizzard continued, but hope burned bright in the small camp. Emma and Sarah knew the journey ahead would be tough. But they also knew they had found friends in unexpected places. Together, they would face the challenges to come. For their children, for each other, and for the promise of a better future. The storm finally began to ease, leaving a stillness in the air. The world was quiet, covered in a thick blanket of snow. The small group emerged from their shelter, grateful for the break in the weather. Emma and Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope. They had survived the worst of the storm, and they were not alone. Wohiv and Chaska led them to a more secure spot in the grove. It was a small clearing, surrounded by tall trees. The place felt safe, protected from the wind. Emma and Sarah set up their few belongings. They spread out blankets to sit on, keeping the babies close. The warriors shared their supplies, offering food and warmth. Emma and Sarah were grateful for their generosity. The dried meat and berries were a welcome change from the meager rations they had before. The babies ate well, their faces brightening with each bite. Emma watched Wohiv and Chaska as they worked. The warriors moved with purpose, setting traps and gathering wood. Their skills were impressive, and Emma felt a growing respect. She knew they had much to learn from these men. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Emma and Sarah began to help. They collected sticks for the fire, learning how to build it up properly. Wohiv showed them how to tie small snares, explaining with gestures and smiles. Emma and Sarah were eager to learn. Every skill was a step towards survival. The bond between the settlers and the warriors grew stronger. They worked side by side, sharing stories and laughter. Emma felt a sense of belonging she had not known since leaving the camp. The warriors had welcomed them without hesitation, and that meant everything. Sarah found comfort in the new routine. She watched as Chaska taught her how to find edible roots. His patience was endless, and Sarah appreciated his guidance. She had always dreamed of a garden, and now she was learning to find food in the wild. The babies thrived in the new environment. They were warm and well-fed, their laughter a balm to their mothers' hearts. Emma and Sarah took turns caring for them, giving each other moments of rest. It was a small luxury, but it made a big difference. As the days passed, Emma and Sarah learned more about the Lakota way of life. Wohiv and Chaska spoke of their families, of the land they called home. Emma listened with interest, feeling a deepening connection. The warriors' stories were rich with tradition and wisdom. Emma shared her own stories, speaking of her childhood and her dreams. She talked about her husband, about the plans they had made. It was bittersweet, but it felt good to share. Wohiv and Chaska listened with respect, nodding in understanding. The small clearing became a haven for the group. They worked together, ensuring everyone had enough to eat. The warriors taught Emma and Sarah how to hunt for small game, how to track animals in the snow. It was hard work, but they were determined. Emma felt her confidence grow with each new skill. She could see the same change in Sarah. The world was still harsh, but they were learning to face it. Together, they were stronger. The friendship between the settlers and the warriors deepened with each passing day. Emma and Sarah felt a sense of gratitude for Wohiv and Chaska. The warriors had offered them more than just food and shelter. They had offered them hope. Emma watched as Sarah laughed with Chaska, their faces bright with joy. It was a moment of light in the darkness, a reminder of the good in the world. Emma felt her heart lift, warmed by the connection they had all found. With each new sunrise, Emma and Sarah grew more comfortable in their new lives. They had found a rhythm, a way to survive in the snow-covered land. The challenges were still there, but they faced them with courage and determination. The small group worked as one, a team united by shared purpose. Emma and Sarah felt a part of something larger than themselves. They had found friends in the Lakota warriors, a bond that transcended their differences. As the sun set behind the trees, Emma looked at the faces around her. Wohiv and Chaska, Sarah, and the babies. They were her family now, a new beginning in the midst of hardship. Emma felt a sense of peace, knowing they would face whatever came together. The storm had tested them, but it had also brought them closer. Emma and Sarah knew they had found something special in Wohiv and Chaska. Their friendship was a gift, a beacon of hope in a world of uncertainty. Emma held her baby close, feeling the warmth of the fire on her face. The future was still unknown, but she was ready. With Wohiv and Chaska by their side, they would find a way. For their children, for each other, and for the promise of a better tomorrow. The storm had left its mark on the land, but the sky was clear now. The air was cold, yet there was a sense of calm. The snow lay thick on the ground, creating a white world around them. Emma and Sarah felt a growing resolve. The worst was behind them, but new challenges lay ahead. Wohiv and Chaska had become their guides and friends. They taught Emma and Sarah many things. How to move quietly through the snow, how to find food, and how to stay warm. These skills were vital, and each day brought new lessons. Emma and Sarah listened carefully, eager to learn. They needed these skills to survive. The world was still harsh, but with knowledge came power. Emma felt stronger with each new skill. She could see the same feeling in Sarah's eyes. The group faced new challenges as they moved through the forest. The snow made travel difficult, and food was still scarce. Emma and Sarah helped Wohiv and Chaska set traps. They learned to track animals, following trails in the snow. It was hard work, but they were determined. One morning, Emma noticed the clouds gathering again. The wind picked up, carrying a chill. A new storm was coming. Wohiv and Chaska saw it too. They gestured for everyone to gather their things. They needed to find better shelter, a place to ride out the storm. Emma and Sarah packed quickly. They had learned to carry only what was needed. The babies were bundled up, secure in their mother's arms. The group moved with purpose, following Wohiv and Chaska through the trees. The terrain was rough, and the snow made each step heavy. Emma felt her muscles ache, but she kept going. She had to be strong for her child. Sarah walked beside her, sharing the burden. Together they pushed on. The wind grew stronger, biting at their faces. The storm was close now. Emma felt a pang of fear, but she trusted Wohiv and Chaska. They knew the land, knew where to find safety. The warriors moved with confidence, leading them forward. After a long trek, they reached a rocky outcrop. It offered shelter from the wind, a place to rest. The group settled in, grateful for the protection. Emma and Sarah set up their blankets, creating a small space for the babies. The warriors started a fire, the warmth a welcome relief. As the storm rolled in, the group huddled close. The wind howled, but they felt safe in their shelter. Emma watched the flames dance, feeling a sense of peace. They had faced storms before, and they would face this one too. The warriors shared stories, their voices calm and steady. Emma and Sarah listened, finding comfort in the tales. They spoke of the land, of the strength found in nature. Emma felt a connection to these stories, a sense of belonging. Wohiv and Chaska also taught them more survival skills. They showed how to build stronger traps, how to identify useful plants. Emma and Sarah soaked up the knowledge, eager to improve. They wanted to contribute, to be useful in their small community. The storm raged on, but inside their shelter was warmth and camaraderie. Emma and Sarah felt a deepening bond with the warriors. They respected their wisdom, their quiet strength. It was a partnership built on trust and shared goals. As the days passed, Emma and Sarah grew more comfortable in their roles. They were learning to live off the land, to see the forest as a source of life. The fear that had once gripped them began to fade. They were adapting, becoming part of the rhythm of the land. The group worked together, each member playing a vital role. Wohiv and Chaska guided them, leading by example. Emma and Sarah followed, eager to learn and contribute. It was a team effort, and the results were clear. They had food, warmth, and safety. Emma watched her child sleep, feeling a sense of pride. She was no longer just surviving. She was learning to thrive. The skills she had learned were a gift, a way to secure a future for her child. It was a powerful feeling, one she cherished. The storm eventually passed, leaving behind a world of white. The air was crisp, the sky a brilliant blue. Emma felt a renewed sense of hope. They had weathered the storm, and they were stronger for it. Wohiv and Chaska decided it was time to move again. The group needed to find a place with more resources. Emma and Sarah packed their things, ready for the journey. They had come to trust the warriors' judgment, and they followed without fear. As they traveled, Emma thought about the future. The world was still uncertain, but there was hope. She had found friends in Wohiv and Chaska, a community in their small group. The journey ahead would be tough, but they would face it together. Emma looked at Sarah, seeing the same determination in her eyes. They had come so far, and they would not stop now. Their children were their light, their reason for enduring. With Wohiv and Chaska by their side, they were ready for whatever lay ahead. The forest stretched out before them, a vast expanse of possibility. Emma felt a sense of excitement, a thrill of adventure. The challenges were real, but so was the promise of a better life. Together, they moved forward, united in purpose and friendship. Emma and Sarah felt a sense of gratitude for the warriors. They had given them more than just skills and shelter. They had given them hope and a chance for a new beginning. Emma held her child close, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. The future was bright, and she was ready to face it. With her friends by her side, she knew they would find their way. For their children, for each other, and for the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The forest was quiet as the group moved through the trees. The snow crunched softly under their feet. The air was crisp, carrying a hint of pine. Emma and Sarah walked close together, their babies bundled warmly in their arms. Wohiv and Chaska led the way, their eyes scanning the landscape for signs of life. As they traveled, the group shared stories. It was a way to pass the time and build their bond. Emma and Sarah spoke of their past, of the lives they left behind. They told tales of their families, their hopes, and their dreams. It was a way to remember, to keep the past alive while moving forward. Wohiv and Chaska listened with interest. They nodded at the right moments, showing they understood. When it was their turn, the warriors shared stories of their own. They spoke of the Lakota people, of their customs and traditions. Emma and Sarah listened carefully, eager to learn. The stories created a bridge between them. Despite their different backgrounds, they found common ground. Emma felt a deepening respect for the warriors. Their tales were rich with history and wisdom, offering a glimpse into a world she had never known. The children, though young, seemed to sense the connection. They were calm and content, nestled in their mother's arms. Their laughter was a joy, a reminder of the innocence and hope they carried. Emma watched her child, feeling a swell of love and determination. She wanted to give her child a better life, a world filled with kindness and understanding. The group stopped to rest near a stream. The water was icy but clear. Emma and Sarah filled their canteens, grateful for the fresh water. They sat together, sharing a simple meal of dried meat and berries. The sun was warm on their faces, a welcome change from the cold of the storm. As they ate, Wohiv and Chaska taught Emma and Sarah more about the land. They showed them how to recognize animal tracks, how to find signs of predators. Every lesson was valuable, a tool for survival. Emma soaked up the knowledge, feeling more connected to the world around her. The bond between the settlers and the warriors continued to grow. They laughed together, shared stories, and learned from each other. Emma felt a sense of belonging, a feeling she had not known since the storm began. Wohiv and Chaska had become more than just guides. They were friends, allies in a harsh world. As the sun began to set, the group prepared to move on. They had found a rhythm, a way to travel together that worked for everyone. Emma and Sarah packed their things, ready for the next part of their journey. The forest was vast, but they faced it with confidence. The evenings were full of stories. As they sat around the fire, Emma and Sarah shared memories of their husbands. They spoke of love and loss, of dreams unfinished. It was bittersweet, but it felt good to remember. Wohiv and Chaska listened with empathy, understanding the pain of separation. The warriors shared stories of their own families. They spoke of parents and siblings, of children waiting for their return. Emma felt a connection to these tales, a shared understanding of the importance of family. It was a reminder of what they were fighting for. The power of storytelling brought them closer. It was a way to bridge the gap between their worlds, to find common ground. Emma felt a sense of peace as she listened to the stories. They were a reminder that, despite their differences, they were all human. As the fire burned low, Emma watched the flames dance. She thought about the future, about the life she wanted for her child. The world was still uncertain, but she had hope. The friendship she had found with Wohiv and Chaska gave her strength. The group settled down to sleep, the warmth of the fire keeping the cold at bay. Emma held her child close, feeling the steady rise and fall of tiny breaths. The stars were bright above, a promise of new beginnings. The days turned into weeks. The group continued to move, searching for a place to settle. Emma and Sarah grew more confident in their skills, more sure in their roles. They had learned much from Wohiv and Chaska, and they were eager to contribute. Emma's heart swelled with pride as she watched Sarah set a trap with ease. They had come so far, learned so much. The forest no longer felt like an enemy. It was a source of life, a home. The bond between the settlers and the warriors was strong. They had become a family united by shared experiences and goals. Emma felt a deep gratitude for Wohiv and Chaska. Their guidance had been a gift, a lifeline in the storm. As they journeyed on, Emma thought about the new life they were building. It was not the life she had imagined, but it was good. She had found friendship and purpose, a reason to keep moving forward. The future was still unknown, but Emma faced it with courage. She had found a place of belonging, a community of support. With Wohiv and Chaska by their side, she knew they would find their way. As the sun rose on a new day, Emma felt a sense of peace. She was ready for whatever came next. For her child, for her friends, and for the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, united in hope and friendship. The air was crisp as the group continued their journey through the forest. The trees stood tall around them, their branches dusted with snow. Emma and Sarah walked side by side, their babies held close. Wohiv and Chaska led the way, their eyes always watchful. The path was not easy. The snow made the ground slippery and the cold seeped through their clothes. But Emma felt stronger now. She and Sarah had learned so much from the warriors. Each step they took was filled with purpose. As they traveled, the group encountered new challenges. The terrain became rough with steep hills and deep ravines. Emma's legs ached, but she pushed on. She had to be strong for her child. Sarah was by her side, sharing in the effort. Wohiv and Chaska guided them with skill. They knew the land well, finding the safest routes. Emma felt grateful for their leadership. Without them, the journey would have been much harder. The group paused to rest by a small stream. The water was cold and clear, flowing gently over smooth stones. Emma and Sarah filled their canteens, grateful for the fresh water. The babies were fed and changed, their laughter a bright spot in the day. As they sat together, Wohiv and Chaska spoke of the journey ahead. They had decided to move to a new location, a place with more resources. It would mean more travel, more challenges. But Emma and Sarah agreed it was the right choice. Emma felt a sense of excitement at the idea. The promise of a new home, a place where they could settle, filled her with hope. She looked at Sarah and saw the same feeling reflected in her eyes. They were ready for this next step. The group packed up and continued on. The forest stretched out before them, a vast expanse of white and green. Emma felt a thrill of adventure. The world was full of possibilities and she was eager to explore them. As they walked, Emma thought about the journey so far. They had faced storms and hunger, but they had also found friendship and hope. Wohiv and Chaska had been their guides, their protectors. Emma felt a deep gratitude for their presence. The bond between the settlers and the warriors had grown strong. They were more than just a group of travelers. They were a team, united by shared goals and experiences. Emma felt a sense of belonging she had not known before. The journey was not without its hardships. The cold was relentless and food was still scarce. But Emma and Sarah were prepared. They had learned how to find food, how to keep warm. The skills they had gained were invaluable. One afternoon, the group encountered a steep hill. The snow was deep, making it difficult to climb. Emma watched as Wohiv and Chaska moved ahead, testing the ground. Their movements were sure and steady, a testament to their experience. Emma carried her child, feeling the weight with each step. Her breath came in puffs of white in the cold air. Sarah was beside her, determination in her eyes. They would make it together, just as they always had. The climb was tough, but they reached the top. Emma looked out over the landscape, a sea of white and green. It was beautiful, a reminder of the world beyond the forest. She felt a sense of achievement, a pride in how far they had come. As they descended the hill, the group encountered a patch of ice. Emma felt her foot slip, her heart lurching. But Wohiv was there, steadying her with a firm hand. She nodded her thanks, grateful for his support. The day passed, and evening brought a golden light to the forest. The group found a sheltered spot to camp, a small clearing surrounded by trees. Wohiv and Chaska built a fire, the warmth a welcome relief from the cold. Emma and Sarah set up their blankets, creating a cozy space for the babies. The children were tired, their eyes heavy with sleep. Emma watched them, feeling a deep love and a fierce determination to keep them safe. As they sat by the fire, Wohiv spoke of the land they were heading to. It was a place rich with resources, a place where they could thrive. Emma listened, her heart full of hope. The journey was hard, but the promise of a new home made it worth it. The group shared a meal, the simple food filling their bellies. They talked and laughed, the firelight casting warm shadows on their faces. Emma felt a sense of peace, a comfort in the company of her friends. The night was cold, but the fire kept them warm. Emma lay with her child, feeling the steady rise and fall of little breaths. The stars were bright above, a promise of new beginnings. As she drifted to sleep, Emma thought about the journey ahead. It would be tough, but she was ready. With Wohiv and Chaska by their side, they would find their way. For their children, for each other, and for the promise of a better tomorrow. Together, they would face whatever came next, united in hope and friendship. The journey had been long, but at last, they arrived at the new location. The group stood at the edge of a wide valley. The land stretched out before them, open and inviting. The snow-covered ground glistened under the sun, promising a new beginning. Emma felt a surge of hope. This place was different from the dense forest they had left behind. There was space to move, room to breathe. It was a place where they could build a life. She looked at Sarah, seeing the same hope reflected in her eyes. Wohiv and Chaska moved ahead, their eyes scanning the area. They were looking for a suitable spot to set up camp. Emma and Sarah followed, their steps filled with anticipation. The babies were awake, their eyes wide with curiosity. The group found a small rise overlooking the valley. It was sheltered by a cluster of trees, providing protection from the wind. The ground was firm, offering a good foundation for their camp. Emma felt a sense of excitement. This would be their new home. They set to work, each person taking on a task. Wohiv and Chaska began building a fire pit, their movements sure and practiced. Emma and Sarah gathered wood, their hands moving quickly despite the cold. The babies were content, bundled warmly in their blankets. The fire was soon blazing, warmth spreading through the camp. Emma felt a sense of satisfaction as she watched the flames. They had worked together to create this space, a place of safety and comfort. With the camp set up, the group turned their attention to finding food. Wohiv and Chaska led Emma and Sarah through the valley, teaching them how to spot signs of game. The warriors' knowledge was vast, and Emma was eager to learn. They found tracks in the snow, signs of deer and rabbits. Wohiv showed Emma how to set a snare, his hands moving with precision. Emma watched closely, memorizing each step. She felt a growing confidence in her abilities. The valley was rich with resources. Emma and Sarah found edible plants, their leaves peeking through the snow. Chaska explained which ones were safe to eat, his voice calm and reassuring. Emma felt grateful for his guidance. As the day passed, Emma felt a sense of accomplishment. They had found food, secured shelter, and built a fire. The challenges were still there, but they faced them together. The bond between the settlers and the warriors was strong, a foundation for their new community. In the evening, they gathered around the fire. The air was cold, but the warmth of the flames kept it at bay. Emma held her child, feeling the comfort of the little body nestled against her. The stars were bright above, a sea of light in the dark sky. Wohiv began to speak, his voice carrying over the crackle of the fire. He talked about the land, about the life they could build here. Emma listened, her heart full of hope. This was a place where they could thrive, a place to call home. The group shared stories, their voices mingling in the night air. Emma spoke of her dreams, of the life she wanted for her child. Sarah shared her hopes, her eyes bright with determination. Wohiv and Chaska listened, nodding in understanding. The power of storytelling connected them, bridging the gap between their worlds. Emma felt a deep sense of belonging. They were more than just a group of travelers. They were a community united by shared goals and dreams. As the fire burned low, Emma watched the faces around her. Wohiv and Chaska, Sarah, and the babies. They were her family now, a new beginning in the midst of hardship. Emma felt a sense of peace, knowing they would face whatever came together. The days turned into weeks as they settled into their new home. Emma and Sarah grew more confident in their roles. They had learned much from Wohiv and Chaska, and they used that knowledge to contribute to the community. Emma felt a sense of pride as she watched Sarah set a trap with ease. They had come so far, learned so much. The valley was no longer just a place to survive. It was a home, a place where they could build a future. The bond between the settlers and the warriors deepened with each passing day. They worked together, shared meals, and supported each other. Emma felt a deep gratitude for Wohiv and Chaska. Their guidance had been a gift, a lifeline in the storm. Emma watched her child play in the snow, a smile on her face. The world was still uncertain, but there was hope. With Wohiv and Chaska by their side, they would find their way. For their children, for each other, and for the promise of a brighter tomorrow. As the sun set on another day, Emma felt a sense of contentment. She was ready for whatever came next. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, united in hope and friendship. The valley was their home now, a place of possibility and promise. Emma knew they had found something special here, and she was grateful for every moment. The days in the valley had been peaceful. Emma and Sarah were settling into their new home with Wohiv and Chaska. The land provided them with food and shelter. The group had become a small community, strong and united. Emma felt a deep sense of belonging. She was learning to see the valley not just as a place to survive, but as a home. One morning, as they prepared for the day, Emma noticed something unusual. She saw figures in the distance moving through the snow. Her heart tightened. More settlers were approaching. She could see several people bundled against the cold making their way towards the camp. Emma felt a mix of emotions. Part of her was happy to see more people, but another part was wary. She remembered the stories from the past, tales of distrust between settlers and the Lakota. She looked at Wohiv and Chaska, who had also noticed the newcomers. Their faces were calm, but Emma sensed their caution. As the group of settlers drew closer, Emma saw familiar faces among them. These were people from the original camp, the group they had traveled with before the storm. Emma's heart ached with memories of loss and survival. She wondered how these settlers had fared during the storm. The newcomers approached with care. They stopped a short distance away, clearly uncertain. Emma stepped forward, her heart pounding. She greeted them, her voice steady. She explained how Wohiv and Chaska had helped them survive, how they had become friends. The settlers listened, their eyes shifting between Emma and the warriors. Emma could see the hesitation in their faces. They were wary of the Lakota men, unsure of their intentions. Emma knew she had to bridge the gap to show them that Wohiv and Chaska were allies, not threats. Sarah joined Emma, adding her voice to the explanation. She spoke of the skills they had learned, the kindness they had received. Her words were simple but filled with sincerity. Emma hoped the settlers would understand, would see the truth in their words. Tension hung in the air, heavy and thick. Emma felt the weight of it, the delicate balance between trust and fear. She knew the settlers had their own stories, their own hardships. But she also knew the strength of the bond they had built with Wohiv and Chaska. One of the settlers stepped forward, a man named James. Emma remembered him from the camp. He had been a strong voice among the group, a leader in his own right. He looked at Emma, his eyes searching hers for answers. Emma met his gaze, her own eyes steady. She spoke of their journey, of the storms they had faced and the friendships they had forged. She told James about the valley, about the life they were building here. Her words were filled with hope and a desire for understanding. James listened, his face thoughtful. Emma could see the struggle in his eyes, the battle between old fears and new possibilities. She hoped he would see the truth, would understand the importance of their alliance with the warriors. Wohiv and Chaska stood quietly, their presence calm and steady. Emma knew they understood the settlers' hesitation. They had seen it before, felt the sting of distrust. Yet they remained open, willing to find common ground. After what seemed like an eternity, James nodded. He spoke softly, acknowledging the hardships they had all faced. He thanked Wohiv and Chaska for their help, for the friendship they had offered Emma and Sarah. Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. The other settlers relaxed, their faces softening. Emma saw the tension ease, felt the shift in the air. The settlers began to ask questions, their curiosity genuine. Emma and Sarah answered, sharing their experiences and the lessons learned from Wohiv and Chaska. The conversation flowed, bridging the gap between the two groups. Emma felt a sense of accomplishment. They were building a bridge, one conversation at a time. The settlers were beginning to see Wohiv and Chaska as allies, as part of their community. Emma watched as James spoke with Wohiv, their words simple but filled with respect. It was a small step, but an important one. Emma knew there would be more challenges ahead, more moments of uncertainty. But she also knew they could face them together. As the sun began to set, the settlers joined the camp. They shared a meal with Emma, Sarah, Wohiv, and Chaska. The fire crackled, casting warm light on their faces. Laughter and conversation filled the air, a testament to the power of understanding. Emma felt a deep sense of gratitude. They had taken a step towards unity, towards a future where they could all live together in peace. It was a journey, but one worth taking. As the night deepened, Emma looked at the faces around her. Wohiv and Chaska, Sarah and the babies, and now the new settlers. They were her family, her community. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, united in hope and friendship. Emma held her child close, feeling the warmth of the fire on her face. The future was still unknown, but she faced it with courage. With Wohiv and Chaska by their side, and now with the settlers too, they would find their way. For their children, for each other, and for the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The morning sun rose over the valley, casting a warm light on the snow-covered ground. Emma awoke to the sound of soft voices. The camp was bustling with activity as everyone prepared for the day. The newcomers from the previous day were already integrating into the routine, working alongside Emma, Sarah, Wohiv, and Chaska. Emma felt a sense of purpose as she joined the others. The task ahead was challenging. They needed to foster understanding between the settlers and the Lakota. Old fears and prejudices lingered, but Emma was determined to bridge the divide. The group gathered around the fire, discussing plans for the day. James, the leader of the newcomers, spoke with Wohiv. Their conversation was polite, but Emma sensed the underlying tension. The two men were still feeling each other out, learning to trust. Emma decided to take an active role in bringing the groups together. She suggested a shared morning meal, a chance for everyone to talk and learn from one another. The idea was met with nods of agreement, and soon everyone was contributing to the meal. As they sat together, Emma encouraged conversation. She asked the settlers to share their stories, their experiences during the storm. Their tales were filled with hardship and loss, echoes of her own journey. Emma listened with empathy, feeling a connection to their struggles. Wohiv and Chaska listened too, their expressions thoughtful. When it was their turn, they shared stories of the Lakota, of their own challenges and triumphs. Emma watched as the settlers listened, their faces softening with understanding. The power of storytelling was evident. It opened doors, broke down barriers. Emma felt a sense of hope. They were building bridges, one story at a time. The settlers began to ask questions, curious about the Lakota way of life. Chaska spoke of the land, of the importance of living in harmony with nature. He explained the traditions that guided their lives, the values they held dear. Emma saw the settlers nodding, their expressions respectful. They were beginning to see the world through new eyes. Emma and Sarah shared their own experiences, talking about what they had learned from Wohiv and Chaska. They spoke of the skills they had gained, the friendship that had grown between them. Their words were filled with gratitude, a testament to the connection they had formed. As the morning progressed, Emma saw the mood in the camp shift. The settlers were more relaxed, more open. Conversations flowed more easily, laughter punctuating the air. Emma felt a sense of accomplishment. They were taking steps towards unity, towards a community built on mutual respect. The group spent the day working together. They gathered wood, set traps, and prepared food. Emma and Sarah worked alongside the settlers and the warriors, their movements confident and sure. The tasks were simple, but their importance was clear. They were building a life together, one day at a time. Emma noticed James speaking with Wohiv. Their conversation was animated, filled with gestures and nods. Emma watched, hoping that they were finding common ground. James had been a voice of reason among the settlers, a bridge between the two groups. As the afternoon sun began to dip, Emma felt a sense of contentment. The day had been a success. They had come together, learned from each other. The challenges were still there, but they faced them as a united group. In the evening, the group gathered around the fire once more. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming, the firelight casting a glow on their faces. Emma held her child, feeling the weight of the day in her bones. But it was a good kind of tired, a reminder of the work they had done. Wohiv spoke, his voice carrying over the crackle of the fire. He thanked the settlers for their openness, for the willingness to learn and grow. Emma felt a swell of pride. They had taken important steps towards understanding, towards a shared future. James responded, his words filled with sincerity. He acknowledged the challenges they had faced, the fears they had overcome. He thanked Wohiv and Chaska for their guidance, for the friendship they had extended. Emma saw nods of agreement among the settlers, a sign of the progress they had made. The night deepened, but the warmth of the fire kept the cold at bay. Emma listened to the conversations around her, feeling a sense of peace. They had come so far, learned so much. The journey was not over, but they were on the right path. As the fire burned low, Emma reflected on the day. They had built bridges, created connections. It was a start, a foundation for the future. Emma knew there would be more challenges ahead, but she faced them with courage. With Wohiv and Chaska by their side, they would find their way. For their children, for each other, and for the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The valley was their home now, a place of possibility and promise. Emma was ready for whatever came next, united in hope and friendship. The sun rose gently over the valley, casting a golden light on the waking camp. Emma stepped out of her shelter, breathing in the crisp morning air. The snow was beginning to melt, revealing patches of earth. Spring was on its way, bringing with it the promise of new life. The camp was already stirring. Wohiv and Chaska were speaking with James, their heads bent together in discussion. Emma felt a sense of pride as she watched them. They had come so far, built so much. The community they had formed was strong, resilient. Emma joined Sarah, who was tending to the babies. The children were growing fast, their laughter a bright sound in the morning air. Emma felt a swell of love as she watched her child play. This was the life she had dreamed of, a life filled with hope and possibility. The group had gathered for a special reason. Today, they would celebrate their first successful hunt together. It was a milestone, a symbol of their unity and cooperation. Emma felt excitement bubbling up inside her. They had worked hard for this moment. The settlers and the warriors came together to prepare the meal. Emma and Sarah helped skin the deer, their hands steady and sure. Wohiv and Chaska guided them, sharing their knowledge with patience and skill. The settlers watched and learned, eager to contribute. As they worked, Emma felt the bond between them all. They were no longer just two separate groups. They had become one, a community united by shared goals and dreams. Emma felt a deep gratitude for Wohiv and Chaska. Without them, none of this would have been possible. The air was filled with the rich scent of roasting meat. Emma's mouth watered as she watched the flames lick at the food. The meal would be a feast, a celebration of their hard work and unity. Emma felt a sense of anticipation. This was a moment to be cherished. As the food cooked, the group gathered to share stories. It had become a tradition, a way to connect and learn from each other. Emma listened as Wohiv spoke of the land, of the importance of respecting nature. His words were filled with wisdom, a reminder of the values they all held dear. James shared his own experiences, speaking of the journey that had brought them here. He talked of the challenges they had faced, the fears they had overcome. Emma felt a connection to his story, a shared understanding of their struggles. The power of storytelling was evident. It brought them closer, bridged the gap between their worlds. Emma felt a sense of peace as she listened to the stories. They were a reminder of the journey they had taken, the friendships they had formed. As the meal was served, Emma looked around at the faces gathered around the fire. Wohiv and Chaska, Sarah and the babies, and the settlers who had joined them. This was her family, her community. Together, they had built something special. The feast was a success, filled with laughter and conversation. Emma felt a sense of contentment as she ate. The food was delicious, a testament to their hard work and cooperation. It was a moment of joy, a celebration of their unity. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the valley, Emma felt a sense of fulfillment. They had come so far, achieved so much. The challenges were still there, but they faced them as a united group. Emma knew there would be more obstacles ahead, but she was ready for them. The night deepened, but the warmth of the fire kept the chill at bay. Emma held her child close, feeling the steady rise and fall of tiny breaths. The stars were bright above, a promise of new beginnings. Emma reflected on the journey they had taken. From the storm that had torn them apart to the friendships that had brought them together. They had built a home, a community filled with hope and possibility. Emma felt a deep gratitude for Wohiv and Chaska for their guidance and friendship. As the fire burned low, Emma felt a sense of peace. They had created something lasting, something meaningful. The valley was their home now, a place of unity and purpose. Emma was ready for whatever came next, united in hope and friendship. With Wohiv and Chaska by their side, they would find their way. For their children, for each other, and for the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The journey was not over, but they faced it with courage and determination. Together, they would build a future filled with hope and possibility. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.